Okay, so we're going to talk about writing equations in y equals mx plus b form, which is slope-intercept form. I'm going to go through this kind of quickly, but if you need to, you can pause or rewind to look at some of these examples that I'm going to give you. So here we've drawn a line. You can see that the line intersects the y-axis. We know that it's going to be a positive slope because it slants to the right. So the first thing we're going to do is identify 2 to 3 points that we know that it intersects. So you can get 3, but you really only need 2. 3 would just be so that you could check it. So here's our 3 points. So if you remember that slope is rise over run, makes our similar triangles. And we can see here that it rises 4 and runs 5, or we can say it goes up 4 and right 5. Up 4 is positive and right is positive. So any positive number divided by a positive number is going to stay positive. So this is another reason that our slope is positive. So the slope is 4 over 5, or 4/5. The next thing we're going to do is identify our y-intercept. So we can see where it intersects the y-axis, which is right here. And if we count that up, we'll notice that it's 5. So our y-intercept is plus 5. So the equation to this line would be y equals 4/5 x plus 5. So we'll take another line here, go in the other direction. And we can see that this one slants to the left, or we could say from left to right it's going down. So this one's going to have a negative slope. So again, we're going to identify some points on the line where it intersects. And we're going to make our triangles, which is our rise over run. We can see that it goes up 2 and left 3. This is the reason that I wrote the 3 as negative. So if slope again is rise over run, then we know that it's 2 over negative 3, or negative 2/3. And again, we're going to identify the y-intercept, which is up 3. So our y-intercept is plus 3. So the equation to this line is y equals negative 2x plus 3. So now, what if you're not given a graph? What if you're given the slope and a point? Well, you have to have the slope and the y-intercept in order to write an equation in slope-intercept form. But we can use the slope and a point to figure out the y-intercept. We understand that slope-intercept form is the pattern between our inputs and outputs. So if we understand that 2 is an input, when we input 2 into x for the equation, the outcome should be negative 3. So we're going to do that. We're going to start off our equation with y equals 6x, and we're going to input negative 2. So we know that 6 times negative 2 is negative 12. Well, according to this point, when I inputted negative 2, I should have gotten out negative 3. I didn't. I had got negative 12. So I have to fix it, and that's where our y-intercept comes into play. So how do you get from negative 12 to negative 3? So we're going to look at that here. And here's just some notes. Because the y part is negative 3, we have to get from negative 12 to negative 3. And we know that from negative 12 to negative 3 is plus 9. So that adjustment from the input that you had, so the input you should have gotten is plus 9, and that is our y-intercept. And so let me fix this here. So y equals 6x plus 9. Okay, so that's us doing this in our head. You can also use the slope-intercept form, or what we call point-slope form, to do this. This is why I said it's way number 1. Every time you're going to take the slope and multiply it by x, add something to get to the y. So when you add that something, that becomes your y-intercept. So here, we're going to try this again, and this time, I'm going to use point-slope form. So point-slope form says y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1, x sub 1. So the x sub 1 and y sub 1 just represents the point that you were given. So you're going to substitute values in the x sub 1 and y sub 1 only. So y minus a negative 3 equals 6 times x minus a negative 2. Now we know when it says minus a negative, that's a negative times a negative, which actually will make those positives. So we're going to make that adjustment. So we actually have y plus 3 equals 6 times x plus 2. And then we're going to solve our equation. So we're going to distribute the 6 to both sides of to both things in the parentheses, and we're going to get 6x plus 12. And then we're going to need to move that 3 over, so minus 3. And so you get y equals 6x plus 9 again. And this is using point slope form. So this would be way number 2. Another way that you could do this is your point and your slope would be slope-intercept form. And we know that that's the goal to get to. And this is sort of what you're doing in your head when you say y equals mx plus b. You see the mx is right there together. It is telling you to multiply the slope by the x. So we're going to substitute those values in. So we're putting in a negative 3 in place of the y, a 6 in place of the m, and a negative 2 in place of the x. So 6 times negative 2 plus something equals negative 3. And we know that 6 times negative 2 is negative 12. So we just need to solve this equation for b, which means that we need to add our 12 over. And negative 3 plus 12 is 9. So again, we get our equation to be y equals 6x plus 9. Alright, so I've given you some numbers to practice here. There's 3. So what I would like for you to do, if you think that you've got this, go ahead and practice these. You can pause the video. Here in a few minutes, I'm going to give you the answers, and you can check to see if you got them right. Okay, so you can see in the first one we said 3 times 2 is 6. You need to subtract 1, so your equation would be y equals 3x minus 1. Here again, we're going to say 1/2 of 6 is 3. I need to get to 12, so I need to add 9. So my equation would be y equals 1/2 x plus 9. And then the last one, negative 4 times negative 1 is 4. I need to get to 3, so that would be subtract 1. So y equals negative 4x minus 1. So these are the 3 answers to check to see how you did. And then here are, if you plug them into point slope form, this is what your equation should look like when you started for each one of these. So you can pause right here to see if you missed it, where you may have substituted in wrong if you used point slope form. Okay, I didn't work them out here, but you can just kind of see if you substituted your numbers incorrectly, if you got it right. If you use slope-intercept form, I've substituted the values in like you should have here for these points, and you can kind of pause the video right here if you use slope-intercept form to see if you substituted those in right. Again, you can see how slope-intercept form is what you're doing in your head when you just reason it. Either is fine. If you can reason it, go for it. If you need the point slope, use it, and if you need to use the y-intercept, use it. Whichever way that you're comfortable with is fine with me. Alright, so what if you're not given the slope? There's only one more step to do then, is you need to find the slope. So we remember that the slope is rise over run, or change in y and change in x. And that's what the triangle here means, change in y and change in x. So here I'm going to say 8 minus 6, which is y2 minus y1, which is the slope formula, and 5 minus 4, which is x2 minus x1. Now again, you do not have to go in that order, but you have to go in the same order. So if you go 8 minus 6, you have to do 5 minus 4. If you do 6 minus 8, then you have to do 4 minus 5, whichever way. So here we get the slope would be 8 minus 6 is 2, 5 minus 4 is 1. So then 2 over 1 is just 2, so there's our slope. And then we're back to where we were earlier. So we're going to pick one of these points since I have 2 options. Okay, so we're going to pick one of the points. And you have 4, 6. So again, I'm going to say 2 times 4 is 8. So then you need to get me 2, 6. So from 8 to 6 is minus 2. So then that makes our equation y equals 2x, 2 from the slope we found, minus 2. Okay, we're going to do one more here. We have negative 2 and negative 5, negative 4, and negative 6. So the slope is rise over run again. Negative 6 minus a negative 5 would be y2 minus y1. Negative 4 minus a negative 2. And you get 1/2. Now, another way to look at this is negative 5 to negative 6 is down 1. Negative 2 to negative 4 is down 2. So negative 1 to negative 2 makes a positive 1/2. So again, I'm going to reason in my mind. I'm going to say, okay, half of negative 4 is negative 2. Well, if I use negative 4, I should have gotten negative 6. So I have to get from negative 2 to negative 6. So that would be negative 4. So there's your y-intercept. So your equation is y equals 1/2 from the slope you found minus 4. Now I'm going to check it with the other point. So I'm going to say half of negative 2 is negative 1. Minus 4 is negative 5. And according to the point, if I use negative 2, I should have gotten negative 5. So I know that I've got the right answer. Also, a side point is, if you don't get it working for both points, that means you've done something wrong in your slope. So go back and check your signs. So here I'm going to do this again using slope-intercept form. Half of negative 1, half of negative 2 is negative 1. Add that over, and negative 4. Either way you work this out, whether it be with slope-intercept form, and we're going to do it again here in a second. So again, I'm going to say 8 minus 9 and 7 minus 4. So that's going to get a negative 1/3. So y minus 9. This time I'm using point slope. So y minus 9, which is the first point I chose, m is negative 1/3, and x minus 4 is the x point that I chose. I'm going to distribute the negative 1/3 across. Now, here is something that some of you don't like. I can change this to 1 and 1/3 if I want and still reason it. So I'm going to add over 9. So that's going to be 10 and 1/3. My 3 kind of went away there, so 3. I know that this is going to be 10 and 1/3. But if you don't like these fractions, you can multiply everything by 3. And that's going to be 3y minus 27 equals, now 1/3 of 3 is negative 1, and then 4/3 times 3 is 4. So then I'm just going to solve my equation. I've gotten rid of all my fractions here, and I'm going to move that 27 over. And so 3y equals negative x plus 31. Divide through everything by 3. And so y equals negative 1/3 x plus 31 over 3, which 31 over 3 is the same as 10 and 1/3. So you can write it y equals negative 1/3 x plus 10 and 1/3. Alright guys, so the big idea here is that you've got to find that slope. You have to find it first. So once you find the slope, which is the change in y over the change in x, or you could say y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So you're going to substitute any x in to either point slope form or slope intercept form, which is y equals mx plus b, and get your answer. So I hope this helps, and good luck.